Welcome back. President Ramaphosa officially signed the Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill into law. Delivering remarks during the signing ceremony held at the Union Buildings, President Ramaphosa stated that the enactment of the bill represents a significant advancement in addressing enduring issues within the South Africa's nation's education system. Now let's unpack this further with ACDP leader, Reverend Kenneth Meshoe. Reverend, thank you so much for your time and for joining us this evening. Now, the ACDP has spoken against this bill from the onset. At some point, you had 200 of your supporters marching to the Johannesburg's Department of Education's offices, picketing outside, going against the bill. Now, the president has signed it into law this morning. What's your reaction to that?
Well, obviously, the ACDP hoped that the president would listen to the last-minute intervention and even threats that if he signs the bill, we will consider going the matter to the Constitutional Court, something that could have jeopardized the effectiveness of the GNU. And so in signing the bill, he postponed two clauses that were problematic to the ACDP, among others, clauses that caused the ACDP not to be part of the GNU. As we know that those two clauses, clause 4 and 5, deal with the SGB's powers and also with the mother tongue language education. And we were believing, and we still are of the opinion, that those clauses, among others, undermine constitutional rights of the parents. Children don't belong to the state, but they belong to parents. So when government reduces the powers of the SGB, the school governing bodies, they are in essence reducing the powers of the parents to have a say in the education of their children. Now, the president obviously acknowledged that this is a matter that has to be considered. That is why he postponed the implementation of these two clauses for 3 months so that there can be further engagement and debate among political parties and also NGOs that are not happy with the bill as it is. We are relieved that he did not sign it and allow all the sections and clauses to be accepted as they are, because he knows that those two clauses are problematic. That is why he has given a grace period of 3 months so that political parties can meet each other, debate the issues again, and try and come to an agreement.
I mean, the formation of the bill, Rev, has taken close to, 11 years. Do you think 3 months is sufficient in what you can contribute specifically towards these two clauses?
Well, if within 3 months they cannot, we don't find each other, he'll have to postpone again. Because if this bill is taken now to the Constitutional Court, the Constitutional Court is going to agree with opposition parties that are saying we cannot accept this bill as it is. That is why the president has acknowledged the fact that he said these two clauses should be postponed for implementation of these two clauses has to be postponed for 3 months so that the parties find each other. Now, if it doesn't happen in 3 months, he has to extend again, because it is not right to undermine the authority of the parents and to deny other people whose language has been used over the years to now say they cannot use their language of choice in the school.
All right, so Rev, let's perhaps unpack one of the clauses in what it is and what the ACDP would want it to change to be. I mean, clause 4 provides for the provincial head of education to override a school's language policy. That, of course, is the authority that currently lies with the school SGB. So as the ACDP, how would you rather have this clause state? Because I believe that with some schools, a school that would predominantly offer all their subjects in Afrikaans, there would be children who live within the area but can't access that school based on that language barrier.
The fact is that when there is proper negotiation and you do not try to force people to accept what they don't want, people do listen. And I don't think there can be a community that knows that all the languages are in a language that children in the neighborhood do not understand. They would insist to do that. They will find a way of meeting each other halfway, and we want that process to be given an opportunity rather than an official or government language board just doing whatever they want without consulting the parents and agreeing with the parents. We have to win the parents over.
Well, I mean, the reality of it, Rev, is that there are schools that offer teaching in Afrikaans where there would be children that are non-Afrikaans speaking who would want to have access to those schools. But does this clause then not allow them that access into those type of schools?
Well, on paper, it allows them. The fact is, how many years have those schools been teaching in that language? And if somebody wants to start trouble, now we are in South Africa. We know that many times people like to fight over something that they themselves started because they like confrontation. Okay? Now, if a school has been using a language all these years, I mean, they are not starting. If we were saying they now want to start the next year with a language that is not favored, that is not liked, that is not known, it would be one thing.
Right.
But some of these schools, they have been using this language for years, but there are people who hate that language because of the past, and they want to do away with that, and we don't think that is fair.
Right. You spoke of other clauses that exist within the bill, apart from clause 4 and 5, that prevented the ACDP from becoming or forming part of the GNU. Could you just speak to some of those clauses that you vehemently object to in terms of the bill?
You know, there is, in the basic education handbook, there are rules about sexuality of children, and also there are rules about what to do when there is pregnancy. What the ACDP totally rejects is for a school to refer children to an abortion, for an example, without the consent of the parents. One of the things that are happening in the schools today that many, both teachers and parents and students, are not happy about is the disrespect that we see in many schools. We see children many times are taking their own teachers. Why? Because teachers' authority has been stripped, and children have been given more powers, more rights, and so on. So we are saying, as the ACDP, when it comes to children's pregnancy, there are methods that we know that government does not favor. For example, if we talk about abstinence, all right? Abstinence, it works, it's perfect, it perfectly works, but some parents and teachers don't want to even to consider that. Now, if they don't want to consider that, we think they are happy to see some of these children pregnant. And to be honest with you, when I look at other neighborhoods, you go to the Indian neighborhood, you go to the white neighborhood, you don't see many children dropping out of school because of pregnancy. And yet it is the townships, black townships, that are suffering. Something has to be done. I don't think government is doing enough to reduce the number of pregnancies among schools in black townships. So for that to happen, government should not cause children to undermine parents, undermine teachers, but for them to say, I'm pregnant, I now want an abortion, and I don't want my father and my mother to be told, that is wrong. ACDP will never agree with that.
With that said, Reverend, in terms of the sexuality and the pregnancy, what are the dangers of stripping parents of those powers, especially when it comes to children, like you say, of the age of 12, having to make a decision to have an abortion?
Doctors and people who are not politically driven will tell you a 12-year-old girl cannot make a decision about something so important and even at times even complicated. I mean, abortion, taking out an abortion is not an easy thing. It's a complicated thing that needs the advice of the parent. The mother has to be there to say to my child, I don't agree with this. Let's look at other options, because there are other options. So, but when the school just prefer children for abortion without the parental guidance, we believe it is reckless and it is wrong. When those children complicate, they should take responsibility and not the parents. Many times when such children, because of their age, complicate, the school doesn't take responsibility. The mother or the father has to take responsibility to nurturing their child when they were not informed in the beginning when they referred the child for abortion. So the rights of the parents must be respected, and nothing that's serious must be done to any child without their mother or father's consent.
Rev, you make mention of the level of disrespect that currently exists within schools, where learners are not respecting educators in the way that they used to. Do you believe that the removal of religious studies within many of our public schools has led to this moral decay, so to speak, within our schooling system?
Well, it has definitely contributed. If I ask you, which document is there in the schools, we knew it as we grew up, that teach children to respect their elderly, their parents, their teachers? Nothing. It is the scriptures that teach about respect. Respect your father and your mother. You know, when you see even in a bus or a train, children arguing with elderly people, because an elderly person needs a seat, and the child said, I have paid also. You realize that as a nation, what is called Ubuntu, we have lost it. And we have to regain Ubuntu for the performance of our children to be improved, so that our children can compete fairly with other children in international countries. Countries outside are still teaching respect for the elderly. And South Africa, to my knowledge, is not teaching. Any teacher who does teaching about respect is doing it on its own, but it's not in the curriculum. That's why when children are not happy with the teachers, they attack them. How many countries in the world do you find teachers being attacked by their children, by their pupils? You have teachers who resign, experienced mathematics teachers, experienced physics teachers, science teachers, resigning and saying, I cannot suffer for the knowledge that I have. I give these children knowledge. I impart knowledge because of my own willingness, my own choice. But if I'm going to be treated this way by a child who needs what I have and I don't need what they have, and then they leave, then you have shortage of teachers. That is why the ACDP says this bill does not assist teachers who are complaining because of the attacks they get from the children who are disrespectful.
Right, Reverend.
So the role...
Unfortunately, Reverend, sorry for coming in there. We have run out of time, but I'm sure the point is certainly going home, especially for those within the teaching space, and certainly for parents as well, in terms of the role that they need to play when it comes to their children within schools. Thank you so much for your time and for your inputs in this discussion. That was Reverend Kenneth Meshoe, who's